Hey crafty friends, it's Sydney with Tastefully Frugal, and today is an exciting day because we are going to be converting an Epson printer into a sublimation printer. So the printer we're converting today is the Epson ET2720. I finally found mine at Walmart. They can be tricky to find, so I've included a bunch of links in the description of this video of where you can find these printers. But in the video, we're going to talk about how to add your ink to the printer, how to charge the ink when it's in the printer, the different settings that you want to set up on your computer for your printer so that you can get the best prints, sublimation prints. And then we're going to do a super quick and easy first project to show you how to print, how to choose those preferences on your printer, as well as what time and temperature settings you need to use when you're pressing your sublimation prints. So to get started, we have everything you need here on the table. You'll obviously need the printer. You'll need some ink. I chose to do the printer's jack ink. I did a bunch of research on Amazon and different YouTube videos and websites, and from the reviews I read, I chose to go with the printer's jack. You'll also need some sublimation paper. This is the sublimation paper that I'm using. I've also linked it in the description of the video. You can get this on Amazon. And you'll want some heat-resistant tape. This is just the Cricut heat-resistant tape, but you could also get some on Amazon as well. And then you will need, obviously, a heat source. I am going to be using the StarCraft heat press today. You can use an easy press, and I have used an easy press with sublimation designs before, but I feel you get more vibrant colors and a full color press with a heat press. So I'll show you how to use the StarCraft press as well in the project tutorial of this video. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to unbox. Obviously it's unboxed now, but I took a video of me unboxing the printer before we got started so I can show you everything that comes in the box, and then we will go from there.
Okay, so I am just using an X-Acto knife to open the box. The box comes with a lot of packaging, but do be careful when you're opening the box or taking any of the plastic packaging or the tape off. You don't want to cut or ruin any part of your printer. So just be careful, no matter if you're using a knife or whatever you're using, not to cut into the printer. But once we get the printer unwrapped, we'll take a look at what else comes in the box. So with your box, you have the owner's manual as well as a CD. If you need to load the printer software, you can use a CD. If you have a laptop, you don't need the CD though. You can do it over Wi-Fi. And then you have, of course, your power cable. This is what gives the printer power. And then you have the Epson ink. We're not going to use the ink, but we are going to use the bottles. So let me show you a little trick. This is a $5 bottle opener I got from Amazon. I've linked it in the description of this video, and it makes taking the lids off these ink bottles so much easier. It is worth the investment, and like I said, it was like $5. So definitely invest in that, because if you don't, it takes forever to get these lids off of the bottles. Once you have the lids off the bottles, you are going to just dump out all of the Epson ink. You don't need this ink for anything, but you do want to make sure to carefully get rid of it. You don't want to pour it down a drain. Once you have all of the ink taken out of the bottles, clean those bottles good. Get all of the ink out of it, out of the top, out of the bottles, out of the lids, and then you're going to pour in your sublimation ink. Make sure to wear gloves at this point, because if this ink gets on your hands, it takes forever to get off. Cut the plastic wrap off the top of that bottle, screw the cap back on, and then just carefully pour your ink from the printer's jack or whatever brand you're using bottles into the Epson ink bottles. The reason that we're using the Epson ink bottles is it makes it a lot easier to get that sublimation ink into your printer. There's a special tip on it that you'll see here in just a second that makes it so much easier than trying to get the nozzle from the sublimation ink bottles into the printer. So take your time, fill up all of the bottles. You will have some ink left over in your sublimation bottles, but make sure you get the cap on both the sublimation bottle as well as the Epson bottles to make sure that no ink spills. Here are our printer jack bottles, and then here are the EcoTank bottles. So you can see that the EcoTank bottles are filled, but there's still some ink left in the sublimation ink bottles. I'll show you what we're going to do with this here in just a little bit. We have to charge the ink first, and that's where some of the ink goes. So let's first get this ink into the printer. So you'll just open the door. It is on the right side of the printer, and then just pull those blue tabs towards you. Make sure you are using the right color ink, and you do not want to hurry the process of loading the ink into the printer. Definitely take your time. You don't need to squeeze the bottle. Just take your time. It is going to take, I think it took about 2 minutes per bottle to get it completely filled, but you don't want to rush it, or you can create air bubbles inside the printer tank, which causes problems for your print color. So take your time, let those bottles drain into the cartridges on their own, and once all of the ink bottles are filled, it is time to charge your printer. Whether you're doing sublimation or a regular Epson printer, for whatever reason, the Epson printers need to charge the ink before they're ready to go. So we're going to plug our printer in to the wall and hit the power button. Then once you have the power on, you'll be prompted on what you need to do on that screen. So the first thing we're doing is selecting our language. I selected English, but there are several different languages you can choose from. And then it's just preparing your printer. It is making sure that all of the pieces inside are moving and that it's ready to begin the charging process. Once everything's good to go, it gives you on-screen instructions. Just read the instruction, hit the question mark button, and then once the next window pops up, you'll hit the button right here to start the charging process. Now this can take up to 10 minutes, so definitely have patience. Once that power button stops flashing, the ink is charged. And you'll see here that because of the charging, some of the ink levels went down. That's where that extra ink and that sublimation bottles is going to come from. So let's go ahead and show you how to set your printer settings on your computer to get the best quality prints. So here we are in our printer preferences. We're going to select our Epson printer and click Manage. There's lots of different options here, but you want to select the printer preferences. All right, we have our window up, and we're going to just move this to the center of the screen so we can see exactly what we're doing. See all these options here? These are options if you were using the Epson printer for regular printing that you would have. You never, ever, ever want to use these options for sublimation. So we're going to go ahead and hide all of these options so we don't mistakenly forget to not select them. So just select each option and click hide. Once you have all the options hid, hit close, and you'll see that all of the presets are gone. So let's go ahead and set up the sublimation presets. We'll want to change the orientation to landscape. You can leave it as portrait, but I feel like most of the designs I do are landscape, so I changed it to landscape. Next, you'll change your paper type to presentation paper matte. It's the second to last option here. And then you'll change the quality from standard to high. Make sure color is selected, and then you want the two-sided to be off, multi-page off. Everything else can stay the same. Now we'll go to more options, and we're going to make sure we have the letter size paper since that's what this printer takes. Everything here can stay the same, but the color correction is what we are going to want to change. Click custom and then advanced. This is the screen you want to be on to make sure that you are getting the most out of your sublimation prints. So we are going to change this from Epson Vivid to Adobe RGB, and the gamma, you have the 1.8 or the 2.2, select 2.2. Don't worry about changing any of this. I'll show you how to do this in a later video. This is for like if you are printing people and their skin color looks different, you'll adjust these levels. But for everyday prints, we're good to go. Just click OK. Next, unselect high speed. We want it to take its time printing, and make sure to select mirror. That way you don't have to worry about mirroring your designs before you're printing them. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure that everything is selected. So we're going to click this add settings, and we are going to type in sublimation prints. You can name it whatever you want really, but then we're going to double check here to make sure all those settings that we just selected are the same. So you want the landscape, the presentation paper matte, the high quality, you want it to be color, you want the two-sided printing to be off. We want to make sure that we have that Adobe RGB, the 2.2 gamma, and most importantly, we want to make sure that that mirror is selected is on, because you don't want to worry about forgetting to mirror your design. All right, here it is. Mirror is on. So everything's good to go. We'll click save, and there's our preset setting. Hit close, and then just make sure when you print, to always select the sublimation prints. It should be the only option now, so there should be no issues. Let's go ahead and print a design and make our first project. Okay, here we have our printer ready to go. You have your white paper. It has your the manufacturer's name on the back, but make sure to load the paper with the white side, the side you want printed on, facing the front of the printer. Then you'll just load your paper in, and it does take some time to print. Don't worry if it's taking a long time. I sped this video up like 700%. It does take a minute, but you want to take that time so you can get all of those qualities in there. So here is our design, printed, mirrored. We are good to go. Let's go ahead and prep our surface. So I'm just using an infusible ink shirt. You can use any high polyester shirt, and anytime you're doing this, make sure that you clean your shirt with a lint roller to get any fibers out of it. Then you'll want to preheat your shirt for about 5 seconds on your heat press or your easy press. Once it is preheated, you can bring your shirt back, and we are going to go ahead and line up our paper design. I like to size my designs down about 3 fingers from the neck, and that's where so I didn't line the top of the paper, but the top of the design down. And then just use your heat resistant tape to tape your design onto your shirt so it doesn't move at all when you're moving it onto the press. Once you have your design taped down, you're going to take a piece of cardstock. I like to just use the inserts of the shirt and put it in between the shirt layers so that that design does not press all the way through the back of the shirt. Make sure it's lined up so that none of your design is touching the back of the shirt. Put a piece of parchment paper on, and let's load our shirt onto our easy press mat. So here we are. Make sure once you get, or not your easy press mat, your heat press mat. Make sure once you get your shirt on that all the wrinkles are out of the way. You don't want any wrinkles in the shirt, either the front or the back. Make sure that that cardstock is covering the design. Put your parchment paper down and go ahead and press it. You'll want to press it at 400 degrees for 60 seconds. Once the press is done, we'll go ahead and lift up the handle. I really like the StarCraft heat press. It does all the work for you, and it's super easy to use. This is why you want to use parchment paper, because you can see the design is in that parchment paper. If you didn't have that there, it would get on your Teflon sheet or the top of your press, and it could ruin those, which you don't want to do. All right, let's go ahead and take the design off of our shirt and take the cardstock off of our shirt, and we have our first sublimation project. What do you guys think? I love the look of this. Let's take a better close-up look and look at what some of those prints look like up close. So here is the shirt design pressed. As you can see, as you pull it, the ink is pressed into the shirt and it just goes back to normal. I love the glitter look. This is what the print looked like before we pressed it. So I did 2 copies. So this is what it looks like before it was pressed. You can tell the big difference in the gold there. This is what it looks like after it was pressed. So this is the one that I just barely pressed. You can see the colors are faded. So top one here is before it's pressed. Then you have what it looks like when it's pressed, and that's what your shirt looks like afterwards.
So what do you think? Converting an Epson printer to sublimation isn't very hard, is it? I found the most difficult part for me was setting up the printer preferences. That's tough to say. Printer preferences on your computer to make sure that you get the most vibrant colors and that your colors turn out the right way. So if you're more of a visual learner or you want to keep something bookmarked so you can reference back to these when you have the printer in front of you, I have included a blog post in the description for this video where I go over all of this information. All of it's written out as well, so that'll be a very good tool to bookmark if you have any questions. You can also ask any questions in the description of this video, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I'm really excited to share more sublimation projects with you in the future. If you like this video, I'd love to have you give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to Tastefully Frugal for more Cricut tips, tricks, and tutorials. Have a great day, guys.